Well, I was born near Spokane, Washington, and I grew up in Seattle, Washington. And I was part of the group of people, Japanese Americans, who were put in internment camps during World War II after Pearl Harbor. And I lived in a camp called Minidoka in Idaho, southeast part of Idaho. And I think that I went back to Minidoka this past June for a reunion. It was called a pilgrimage. And I was struck by that experience, going back and looking at the place where I was as a teenager, and what it meant and what that place meant and what it meant to the nation as a whole in terms of civil rights and in terms of the Constitution and Bill of Rights. I think that it made me realize that unconsciously or unconsciously, I cannot really say what, I think it sort of gave me the kind of impetus to make things better for not just for myself, but for everyone else, to make things so that we have a better socially conscious world, I guess. I think that the important thing for me is my experience anyway, is that if people talk to each other, they can solve a lot of problems together. And if you talk to each other, you get to know each other better. It doesn't mean that you have to be best friends, but at least to understand what the other person is like, or who the other person is. And I think that always bridges the kind of tension that always exists because people don't know each other. Janet Roberts was the wife of Walt Roberts, who was a founder of the National Center for Atmospheric Research. And my husband was hired by him to be one of the scientists in 1966. And Janet invited us to lunch. The new scientists, WISE, those days, you know, WISE were sort of appendages. The WISE were invited by the wife of the director, and she said that this was a beautiful place and that we need to contribute to it in ways that we had to find our own way to contribute, and that we needed to find our way to do this ourselves. She was not going to direct us, but that we should find our own way. So I think that has been sort of the impetus for a lot of the things that I believe and felt at that time. Again, consciously or unconsciously, it's a little hard to know. You know, I grew up at a time when, when I was growing up anyway, women just were sort of partners to the men. And I know that I served that role with my husband in the Air Force for years, 16 years of my first married years. And one of the things that I realized is that we had so much capacity to do more than just be companions and to support the men. And really it started during the 60s, I think, when I went back to school. The whole idea of women, and I'm not talking about burning bras, that kind of thing. I'm just talking about the idea that women and girls can do almost anything they wanted to do. And today you have the capacity to do that, or you have the opportunity to do that. It was not true, 40, 50 years ago. It was there, the opportunity was there, but most women and children, girls, really did not feel that it was a possibility. But today I think it's great. We even talked about a woman president.